Kitchener stitch, I'm just going to knit across the last 4 stitches. Because I have my end of the round in the center of the bottom here, I want to get my stitches half on one needle, half on another needle. That is, the stitches on the top of the foot on one needle, the stitches on the sole of the foot on another needle. If you have set yours up on 2 circular needles with the end of the round on the side, you already got your stitches that way and you don't have to do anything. But if you have your end of the round in the center of the sole, just go ahead and knit to the end of the needle so that we've got half the stitches on one, half on the other. And this is why it was important that we set up our toe with the same number of stitches in the sole and the top of the foot, because when we finish off this ending with the grafting, we'll need to have the same number of stitches on both needles so that when we join it together, we don't have any leftover stitches at the end. So that's it for knitting that toe, and now we'll go ahead and break our yarn. Now you want to leave a little bit of a tail here because we are going to use it to knit with, and so I'm going to just cut it, and I've left, I don't know, 20 inches, 18 inches, that's probably more than enough. I'm just going to thread the tail of the yarn onto a tapestry needle, and then I'm going to get out my little cheater thing, my little keychain that has the Kitchener stitch instructions on it, because it's something that no matter how much I do, I just don't remember how to get started. So it's nice to have this little tool for me, just always handy. I also have some apps on my iPhone. I have a Vogue knitting app, and there are several other apps that you can get that have basic knitting techniques and instructions on them. And so I use that if I'm out and I don't remember to take the knitting bag that has my little sock tip keychain in it. I can look it up on my iPhone, and I'm sure there are apps that are available for Android phones as well with knitting instructions on them. Okay, so basically what we're going to do for grafting is we're going to sew a little seam on the toe of the sock, but the way we sew the seam is such that it makes a row of stockinette stitch to join the 2 pieces together, so it will be completely invisible when we finish. So we just hold our stitches parallel on the needles, and we've got the same number on each needle. And what we're going to do is we're going to start on the front needle, and we insert the front knitting needle. We insert the tapestry needle as if to purl through the first stitch, and we pull the yarn through, and then we just leave it there. And then we go to the back knitting needle, and we take the tapestry needle and we put it through the first stitch as if to knit, and then we pull that through, making sure that the loop of yarn goes under your needle, not creating another wrap on the knitting needle. And so we're set up. That's the beginning part that you do just to get ready. And now we're going to do the steps to sew each piece together, and we'll repeat this over and over again, the rest of it. So on the first stitch on the front knitting needle, or the needle closest to you, we're going to go into that stitch as if to knit, and then we're going to take that stitch off the needle. Then we're going to go into the next stitch as if to purl, and we're going to leave that stitch on the needle. Then on the back needle, we go into the stitches in the opposite order. So we're going to go into the first stitch as if to purl, and we'll take that stitch off, and then we go into the second stitch as if to knit, and we will leave that stitch on. So one way that you can remember that is on the front needle, we're looking at the knit side. So we go into the first stitch as if to knit, and that's the stitch we take off, as if we've knitted a stitch. When we look at the stitches on the needle in the back, we can see that we're on the purl side. So we go through that first stitch purl-wise and take it off, as if we're making a purl stitch. All right, so we'll just do that one more time so I can show you, and then you can go ahead and repeat that across all of the stitches on your needle until you have 1 stitch left on each needle, and then I'll show you how to finish it off. So remember, on the front knits showing, we're going to go knitwise first. We're going to take that stitch off the needle. We're going to go purlwise next and leave that stitch on the needle. On the back needle, we're going to go purlwise through the first stitch because the purl side is facing us. Remember to not let the yarn wrap around the front knitting needle. You want it to go underneath. We're going to pull that stitch off, the purlwise one, and then we're going to go knitwise through the next one and leave it on the needle. And we want to tighten that up a little bit as we go. We want it to end up being the same tightness or the same gauge and tension as the rest of the knitting. So just to recap, we're going to go on the front needle, we're going to go through the first stitch knitwise and take it off, then through the next stitch purlwise and leave it on. And then on the back needle, we're going to go through the first stitch purlwise and take it off, and through the next stitch knitwise and leave it on. We're going to do that over and over and over again. So go ahead and review that and do it yourself and go all the way across until you have one stitch left on each needle. When you get to just one stitch on each needle, you're ready to finish it off. And so you'll find that you just are right up to the place where you're going to do the knitwise into the stitch on the front needle and take it off. And then there's no stitch to go into purlwise as the second stitch. And then you have just one stitch on the back needle, so you go into that purlwise and take it off, and you're finished. And then you'll just insert the needle into the inside of the sock to get the end of the sock yarn in there, the tail, and to give a little tug. And you're finished with the toe of that sock.